born and raised in New York and Yonkers. So at a time, my voice sometimes projects a lot. So if it gets a little loud, just give me a little pat, and I'll bring it down. Especially when I talk about the Bible, I get very excited. So yes, a little background about myself. Born and raised a Seventh-day Adventist, 1962. I was born in this parish, in this tribe, so to speak. It was right up the block, and then I moved here with my parents when I was about 10 years old. Born to Nicholas and Rose Canosa. They were Seventh-day Adventists. They had moved from the Bronx church to what was called Yonkers, the country back then, right? They moved up here because I was born. I had two older sisters, and they moved from the Bronx to the country, and they wanted to raise me with a strong Christian foundation in Yonkers. So along with my dad, I was given a strong character, sense of responsibility, very goal-oriented, trustworthy. I enjoyed starting companies that did well, but did well by doing good for people. So I always had a drive in me. I knew it was inside of me. Something good was going on. The interesting part about the way I started my life, and I wanted to talk about a story that came to mind this week. I knew I was going to be up here today. And the story actually pertains nicely to today's topic. And I end up with two different things. One is, when I give you my experiences, I am hoping that you could learn through either A, my mistakes, or B, my observations of when we do something, how the Lord actually praises us and the way our lives go, one way or the other. I will make one statement. I will never ask you to do something that I have not done and have not either reaped the benefits and rewards or failed. If I did it, I will share it with you. I will share the outcome with you, and we will present it in terms of the scriptures. So the story goes like this. I was born in Yonkers, and my family was very large extended family. My father had 11 brothers and sisters, and they had many children, all women. I had 50 female cousins, 2 older sisters, a mother, and a dad. This is how the Lord brought me Italian family. Do you know what that means when you're the only boy carrying on the family name in an Italian family? Well, the family protected me, right? I was hovered over. Secrets were kept so that I could sleep at night if something bad happened, right? Up until I was 30 years old, I never even knew my family background. And then one day someone said something, they Googled my name and something came out. So let me present the way I was brought into this world to have a foundation of Christianity. So I'm born 8 months into it. Satan finds and says, there's no way I could let this guy survive. There's just no way. He's the only boy carrying on a family tribe tree, right? His father and mother moved here. Strong Christianity, strong Seventh-day Adventist. There is no way I could survive. Satan, this was easy. This was easy. So I'm 8 months old, and typically they used to say that I was extremely calm. I slept well at night. I didn't cry that much. I was a very good child growing up. But as an 8-month-old baby, they brought me to the family party that was going on a Friday evening during the Sabbath. And all the brothers and sisters were there. My parents were there. My sisters were there. I was 8 months old. They put me down to rest. And all of a sudden, at about 10:30, I became agitated. I turned red in the cheeks. My ears started to itch. The story goes, my nose was done. It looked like I was going to throw up. My stomach, I was 8 years. I was so agitated that my mom and dad decided, okay, let's take him home. We lived in Yonkers. This was in Mount Vernon. 15-minute drive home. We get home. They said as soon as I got home, I was calm. I was relaxed. They put me to bed. 10 minutes after that, my dad gets the call. We left the party. Someone came in right after us and murdered 7 people. Okay, took away my grandparents, took away my cousins, took away a couple of my uncles and aunts who I never had met. I was 8 months old. So here it is. I was born this beautiful white sheep, but brought into an environment of this sort of evil doing environment. However, I was pulled out of that environment and protected. And I can only tell you this as I read the scriptures, as we talk about going through life as lost sheep, or the parable of the sheep, that is today's topic. It's the parable of the lost sheep. If we go to Luke 15, 1 through 7. So I'm going to start reading from verse 4. And it says, "What man of you, having 100 sheep, if he loses one of them, does he not leave the 99 in the wilderness and go after the one which is lost until he finds it? And when he has found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And when he comes home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, 'Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep which was lost.' I say to you that likewise there will be more joy in heaven over one sinner who repents than over the 99 just persons who need no repentance." Parable of the lost sheep. So something that immediately came to me was that even as a baby, I was being guarded. I was being protected. And I was growing up. And over the next 20 years, that period following my graduation from law school and following the passing of my father, now you see, the man of the house was gone. And all the women were in the house. And I was it at 18. The distractions of my first job came, my first own business, my first marriage, lots of firsts when I was the only man in the house, lots of experiences. And those experiences quietly began, as Satan does, to erode my Christianity. Home, I realized it really did turn inclement. And I was driving home from New Jersey on the Garden State Parkway, and my sports car hit a puddle, and I spun around 3 times, and I hit the wall. I wasn't hurt. I was in good shape. I felt, but when I kind of looked up, I realized I was perpendicular, and a truck was coming at me. And I'm looking at this truck. I'm trying to start the car, and wouldn't start. And the lights were coming, and oh man, what am I going to do? And then all of a sudden, someone knocked on my window, and I opened the window. It was an African-American man, and he said, "Put the car in neutral. I'm going to push you." And I said, "Okay." And I put the car in neutral. I didn't know what was going on. The man got in front of the car. It was pouring rain. He pushed me. He pushed me to the side of the road. He got out. I got out of the car. It was pouring. He grabbed me. He put me in his car. He looked at me and he said, "Are you okay?" And I said, "Yes, I'm okay. I feel I'm okay." He said, "Great. Where do you live?" I told him where I lived in Yonkers. I was in the depths of New Jersey, and I told this gentleman I lived in Yonkers, New York, probably an hour and a half away. Gave him my address. There was no Waze or GPS back then. It was just maps if you had them, and lucky if you could remember your route. So he had to take me an hour and a half away to Yonkers. He took me directly to my house. He brought me out of the car. He dusted me off. He said, "You okay?" By the time I looked at my house and tried to figure out, he was gone. That's when I was 18. I realized that no matter what I did, I was protected. Even then, I knew something inside was going on. Even though the sheep's, the clothes, the what do you call it? The fur, the outside, the sheepskin was getting dark. It was getting dirty from the time of the environment that I was born into until I was 18. I was so full of pride, as if I was successful because Nick determined that I should be successful, never giving credit to where it was actually coming from. From these experiences, I could attest to, as I roamed the earth, lost, sleepwalking, I knew something inside me. I also knew I was not walking with Jesus. I knew that each time I start a business and go to the lawyers and do all this stuff, that I was not walking into these deals with Christianity at heart, with righteousness of heart. However, my mother had asked me a few years back, Nicholas, you've started so many companies throughout the nation, throughout the world. Why don't you start one in Yonkers where you grew up? So I started one in Yonkers, and that was very interesting because while I was obviously being protected by the Lord, consistently in Yonkers, whenever I was called to a meeting, so I lived in Upper Westchester, so I'd come down to Yonkers for my meetings every day. Consistently, I would get lost in Yonkers. I grew up in Yonkers. My friends would make fun of me. You grew up in Yonkers, you get lost in Yonkers. They don't realize how big Yonkers is, actually. But so I would get lost. And inevitably, the light in front of this church is where I was led. Someone said, oh, meet me at the Bank of America. I was lost right in front of the church. Someone said, oh, meet me over there and, to go to Fortina's for lunch. I was lost in front of, I kept looking at the church. I completely understood. That's where I grew up. That's where my foundation was. I just never, and then I would read the sign. It was a little dirty. And when do they still do this? It had been almost 45 years since I've been in this church. So I was wondering if everything stayed the same. But I knew this was happening. And then I was drawn to Teller Ministries, right? Joel Osteen. I just enjoyed it. Then I went to Houston to meet him for no reason at all, except I was curious how he lived. How does someone be born of this earth, yet walk with Jesus, live without Christ? How does this happen? 8 months old, I should have been gone. This is a powerful force. And Satan works in inches. It's never a big thing. It's an inch, right? It's a little bit. Oh, she looked at me. It's a little bit. I like my watch. I used to go to meetings and I'd say, look at my suit. Look at my watch. Look at my nice teeth. My confidence was drawn from within me. It's completely incorrect. It's a piece of metal. It's a piece of ceramic that I had put on. It has nothing to do with confidence. My confidence now, I completely understand, is from the Lord. Once I turn every transaction, every walk, every step that I take, once I turn it over to the Lord, everything just oozes out of me. The relaxation occurs. This watch tells me my heart rate goes down, my oxygen intake goes up. Only when I sit with the Lord, never when I sit with just Nick. So this sheep is going along and I'm getting pushed and pulled and I know the Lord is with me. And now I'm 19 years old and I feel something inside coming out. And I'm in my second year of college, and I'm feeling very good, and I'm meeting people, and I ended up with a group of lovely mixed people. I had some Greeks, I had some Jewish, I had some Italians, Catholics, Jews. We were all involved. We had about a group of 12 people. And I was not the leader, but they always looked for me because they lived in the boroughs, and I lived in Westchester, the country. So they all thought maybe we would, Nikki knows a little something that we don't know. So a gentleman walked up to us and said, hey, I'm having a big party this weekend on Friday night, the Sabbath. Would you all like to come? And I knew this gentleman was from Bedford, New York. He was upstate, right? Bedford. When I was growing up, it was horse country. I didn't have too much grass on my front lawn. It was small in Yonkers, right? A little postage stamp. I heard about rolling grass meadows and horses running around in Bedford and high schools that had full football fields and base. I was thinking, man, this is where I'd like to live one day, right? So when this gentleman came up, his name was Bernard, he said, hey, Nick, why don't you and your group come up and we'll have a party in Bedford. Bedford. He should have said Babylon, but it was Bedford, right? So I'm like, okay, great. There it goes. That my ears started to get red. My cheeks got red. My stomach started to turn. This lovely gentleman was inviting us to a party, and I was having these visceral signs again. Only did I reference this back to when I was 8 months old, when my sisters told me what happened. So I said, listen, thank you for the invite, but I have something going on Friday night, and I'm going to say no, okay? But thank you for the invite. I really appreciate it. I'm going to take you up on it, though. I heard Bedford's a great place to live. I'd love to come up and visit you, but not tonight, Friday night. He said, no problem. The group came to me and said, if you're not going, you live right there. If you're not, we're not going. So they didn't go either. Okay, 19 years old. Go to bed Friday night. I wake up on the Sabbath, 8 a.m. I get a phone call. I lift up the phone, and it's one of the group. Her name was Sally. She said, Nick. I said, yes. She said, Sally. I said, uh-huh. She said, turn your TV on. I said, what, Sally? It's 8 o'clock in the morning on Saturday, please. She goes, turn your TV on. So I get up. There was no remote controls those days. I had this big wire that came to a box. I turned the TV on, and it was channel 2, and I look up, and there's this kid Bernard on TV, his face like a mugshot. And I turn it to channel 4. He's there. 6, 8, 10, 12. He was on every station. Everybody at that party was murdered. And the 12 people that didn't go with me everyone called me individually and said, we were going until you told us not to. We were behind you until you said stop. There's something in you that's protecting us, and we thank you for it. It's the second shot that Satan took at me. So now I'm sitting here and I'm thinking, okay, God's protecting me. He's inside of me. He's pushing me to the church. He's pushing me with my businesses to do well for people. What did I do wrong? I don't understand. This all magnificent being is telling me, my God is telling me, I've protected you. There must be a reason. And why am I sitting here late in life thinking I still have not figured out the reason? So I went to Proverbs 5:22. I enjoy the book of Proverbs. It's a lovely book. Proverbs verse 22, 5 verse 22. And it was, his own iniquities entrap the wicked man, and he is caught in the cords of sin, of his sin. His own iniquities entrap the wicked man, and he is caught in the cords of his own sin. I read that and I realized that God's sheep are doing what God wants him to do. Christ is ready to set us free from sin, but he doesn't force our will. Now I understood it. He's not going to force our will. And if by persistent transgressions the will itself is wholly bent on evil, and we do not desire to be either the benefits or at least the results or the solutions of my actions. So I think, how do we, sinning men and women on earth, how do we, humans of dust, of earth strength, how do we strengthen our mind? How do we strengthen our human eyes to reach the goal of salvation? I was guided to the Bible. And specifically, I was guided to Psalms 119, verse 18. Open my eyes that I may see wondrous things from your law. Open my eyes that I may see wondrous things from your law. Actually, it says, open thou my eyes so that I may see wondrous things from your law. So I recognize that the Bible is my defense. It's my roadmap to salvation. The Bible should be studied and prayed. I study it, then I come to the meetings and I realize I have to study more. It's not just a book to read and put down. It comes everywhere with me. Anywhere I go, no matter where the trip, no matter how heavy it is, I put it on my back. At any time that I feel any of those visceral signs that I had as a baby given to me by the Lord, I reach out to him. I reach out and I say, guide me. I reach out and say, you make the decision. I have already felt inside that the old man, as we talk about before baptism, the old man is quickly dying now, as the scriptures literally embed in my heart and soften it as I accept Jesus Christ into my life. And I'm going to leave you with one last story for when I actually did realize that I was not walking with Christ, and I decided to make an absolute 100% effort to do so. So the story goes like this. I always bought great companies to do good for people, right? One of them was a one of them was a daycare center. So I located 2 daycare centers that took the children, and there were gyms next to the daycare. And they were bringing these children into the gym to get them moving. And because I had read articles about childhood obesity. And it starts, at a very young age. So you want to get them moving. And I thought, wow, this is going to be great. I didn't have children at the time. This is going to be great. Let me learn about children. Let me learn about family. This is wonderful. So, but I had to talk this couple who had built this business over 30 years into selling it to me. And they lived in Florida. They had a house in Martha's Vineyard. It was very difficult, but I finally got them to agree to sell me their business. Now, prior to this, when I was buying physical therapy centers a couple of years earlier, I purchased a physical therapy center from a doctor, and it was a small one, and we were at the diner, and it was about $100,000. He's like, just pay me $10,000 a month for 10 months, and we're good. I said, okay, and he shook my hand. And I said, do you trust me? Shake my hand. I said, great. So I took out a napkin, and I wrote, I owe you $70,000 on a napkin, $70,000, $10,000 a month, and I signed it. And I said to the doctor, can you sign it? And he did. It was really just me thanking him for trusting me that I could put something on a piece of napkin, and he would trust that in the court of law. I did. I brought it home. I put it away. When that company was growing rapidly, and I was ready to go public, believe it or not, 2 months after I did this transaction with the doctor, auditors came in, because you have to be audited before you sell shares to the public. And they looked at these $10,000 payments to the doctor, and they said, Nick, you're not kicking back. This is illegal. You're not kicking this doctor back for sending you patients. I said, no. I purchased that location, and I'm merely paying a note off. And they said, great, can we see the note? So I said, yeah, sure, you can see the note. I have to go home and get it, a couple of days. So I left the office and I called the doctor, and I said to the doctor, listen, I owe you $70,000. I'm getting ready to go public. What's your attorney's name? Gave me the attorney's name. The guy's name was Dick Emerson. No problem. I called up Dick Emerson. I said, listen, I need you to draft a note, one that I've already been paying and I'm soon to pay off. He goes, why? I said, I need proof that I'm going to pay this, and I need the doctor to be comfortable that he's going to get paid. He said, Nick, you're going public. Tens of millions of dollars are going to change hands. This is a $70,000 deal. Walk away. This doctor has no rights to you. This was the doctor's lawyer telling me this, Satan. My doctor's lawyer is telling me to screw around with the doctor. I said, no. The doctor trusted me. And I want to make sure that he knows by trusting me, I was going to get this done. The lawyer goes, all right, no, I've never seen this before. Okay, so he writes the note up, he faxes it to me, I sign it. Okay, I walk in the next day, I give it to the auditor does, and three months later, that doctor got all his money, and I felt great. Now 3 years later, I'm trying to buy this daycare center, and I finally get in front of this couple, and they finally agree, and they're really nervous, and they say, Nick, we'd like to introduce you to our lawyer. He's going to protect us so that we make sure we get paid. I said, okay, great. I get a little nervous because lawyers typically screw up deals, but I said, okay, great. So he puts it on speaker, he calls the lawyer, and he says to the lawyer, hi, I'm going to introduce you to the person that's going to buy, the man that's going to buy my business, and I want you to draft an ironclad contract to make sure that this gentleman, Nicholas Canosa, pays me the money because this is my retirement. I built this business over 30 years. So I was feeling like, oh, I'm not going to get this deal done. This gentleman is so nervous. So a couple of seconds went by, and again, the speakerphone's on, and the voice at the other end says to the seller, his name was Patrick, Patrick, you do not need me to draft the contract. Have Nick write it on a napkin and hand it to you. You do not need to pay legal bills. Nikki's going to pay you. And I said, wait, I'm sorry. Who is this? And he said, my name, you know me as Dick Emerson. And I said, oh my goodness. So this is the one time as I put my foot in the water of righteousness, right? That's what I do. We're human and I'm testing the waters, but it immediately showed me that by being righteous, turning the life, turning the deal, whatever we're doing over to the Holy Spirit, they're already protecting, they're already guiding. And when you give it, they give it back. So the $60,000 that I gave to this doctor, out of righteousness, so to speak, 3 years earlier, I ended up buying this business for 10 times that amount and selling it for 100 times that. It was very, very simple. I mean, I'm a very intelligent man, but I do not need any more. I am ready to give my life to the Lord, and I am not fearful of walking on earth. I'm still going to do the same thing, but I'm not making those decisions anymore. I am not going to allow Satan into my life until I get that door open, and they open, and they're opening all over the place now. I then know where the Lord wants me to go, and I know success will come from that. That's just the way I see it. Thank you very much for today. I appreciate your time.
All right. Let's say a quick prayer. Heavenly Father, Lord, I thank you for the word and the testimony of protecting Brother Nick. I pray, oh Lord,